Taking you live to Nowra now on the New South Wales South Coast, where the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, is speaking.
And my family lives from everywhere from Minamurra all the way down, frankly, on the South Coast down to Bega. This is a very special part of the world, and I've had the great pleasure to work with some fantastic local members here, from Joanna Gash and Ann Sidmalis. This has been a place that has been extremely well represented by the Liberal Party, and I want to today pay tribute to Ann Sidmalis. I've previously described Joanna Gash as one of the best local members I've ever seen in the federal parliament, and I want to commend Ann Sidmalis for the great work she continues to do as the local Liberal member here. Ann's overseas at the moment, but I've had a privilege to work with her, and there's been no greater achievement for Ann than what sits behind us with the Shoal-Avon Bridge, $155 million. She campaigned for it, she fought for it, and she achieved it, working together with our state Liberal colleagues here on the South Coast to ensure that the bridge is upgraded. And that bridge, as I know, having travelled across it I don't know how many times, that bridge is a mainstay. It is a lifeblood of the local economy here and the local community here. And so that is the record. I mean, we've invested over $300 million as a government here in local infrastructure, and Ann has championed that. Everything, though, beyond that, from men's sheds to championing disability services, support for aged care, support for retirees, which is a huge part of the local community here on the South Coast and in Gilmore in particular. So I want to say to you, Ann, thank you so much for the work that you've done, that the work I know you will continue to apply yourself to do between now and the next election. And I want to thank you very much for that. In the spirit of having great local Liberal representation for the people of Gilmore, I'm very pleased today to welcome the endorsement of the New South Wales State Executive of Warren Mundine, and to welcome Elizabeth as well, who's here with us today. Warren and I have known each other for some time, and I've always been impressed by Warren's openness, his candour, his passion, and for the things that he believes in. He's been an advocate for working people. He's been an advocate for those who are less advantaged than many other Australians. He's all about jobs. He's all about opportunities. He's about all Australians, whether Indigenous or non-Indigenous, having choices in life, that ethos of the fair go for those who have a go. These are the things that I know he believes in deep. And Warren's connection to the South Coast goes back a long way. I mean, it basically goes back longer than the rest of us who've shown up since his settlement, basically. This is his ancestral home for his people. And it's wonderful that when we first started discussing things some time ago, that he wanted to come and be part of our team. Warren wants to be part of a team that he knows can keep our economy strong, so we can guarantee the essential services that Australians rely on right across the country and right here on the south coast of New South Wales, that keeps Australians safe, whether it's from bullying at schools or protecting women against domestic violence, or ensuring that we're kept safe from radical Islamic terrorism and these threats that come against our nation, and to keep Australians together. I'm particularly pleased to welcome Warren as part of my team as an Indigenous Australian. Warren's perspective on the challenges facing Indigenous Australians, he has taught us a great deal. Not just us in the Liberal Party, but people, I think, more broadly than that. His championing of business and seeing the economy and the economic liberalisation of Indigenous people who are able to go and create their own future, create their own towns, support their own economies. And if there's one thing I know he's passionate about, it is getting young people into jobs, young Indigenous people into jobs. This is the thing that drives him. Welfare mindset is something that he's always seen as toxic to those objectives and robbing the livelihoods and opportunities of young people. So I know that Warren will provide outstanding service to the people of Gilmore if he's given that opportunity. He will provide incredible contributions as part of my team, our government's team, that will deliver that strong economy to get those young people into jobs, which is particularly necessary here on the South Coast, as Ann has worked for so hard over the years. And so I'm really looking forward to the contribution he'll make. And I know the people of the South Coast, who are a welcoming bunch, They really are. They're good-hearted people. They give you a go. If you're having a go, you'll get a go here on the South Coast. And I'm encouraging people on the South Coast, as Warren gets about the place and he comes and establishes himself here with Elizabeth, give him a good listen. Give him a good hear, because he's got a lot of sensible things to say. And he's spent a lifetime trying to make Australia stronger. And as part of my team, he will make Australia stronger. So I'm very happy to introduce my mate, but a good bloke, and who I think will be an outstanding candidate here in Gilmore, Warren Mundine.
Thank you, Prime Minister. From the very beginning, when the Prime Minister and I sat down and started having a conversation and looking at whether I should join the Liberal Party, should play a role in the government and working together, I've always looked at this seat, because for me it is coming home. You know, my grandparents were born here. My great-great-great-great-grandparents were also born here at Moruya, Kiama, and here in the Shoalhaven River. This, to me, has this incredible personal relationship with the land, and as Aboriginal people know, and the wider Australia is learning about, is this spiritual, this incredible place that country means to us. To me, when the conversation we looked at Gilmore. When the conversation we looked at Gilmore was because I wanted to represent a rural seat. I wanted to represent the people of Gilmore, and continuing the fight what Anne and Joanna and that have started and worked really hard for. We look at some of the statistics around this seat. You know, the New South Wales government and the federal government have worked really hard to bring down those unemployment figures from 9% to 8%. I want to bring down that even further and work hard to do that, working with the state government, working with my colleagues here in the Liberal Party, and working with the federal government as well to make that happen. If anyone's seen my readings, I'm very transparent about everything I believe in, everything I fought for. And my thing is, the best thing for welfare is a job. You need to move people from welfare to jobs. And unfortunately, we have a lot of our own communities, Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal as well as youth and that, who are not being able to access that advantage. The government has been working very hard, and we've seen the statistics, the lowering of unemployment figures and that, to get that to happen. And I want to continue to have that to happen and to fight for those things to happen. And it's about how we can create jobs. And the only way you can create jobs is having private, commercially profitable businesses that can get out there and employ the Australians that we need into those jobs and getting things moving. It's an argument I've always argued at the Closing the Gap figures. The missing thing in the Closing the Gap figures was, how do we move people to jobs? We know on a global stage and through economics that the only way you get people to close that gap, to live healthy lifestyles, to get into schools, to get all these things, is their parents have a job, they get a job, and that's how they move forward. So with incredible things like the Indigenous procurement policy, which we worked on together to get out there, which has had an amazing changeover. 2015, $6 million was going to Indigenous businesses. Today, that's in excess of $1.2 billion. So within 3 years, we've been able to create that, which has created jobs within regional and remote Australia. And we need to do more of that, because it's not only for Indigenous people, because you get an Indigenous business working, we know that also the rest of the community actually goes into those jobs and get work there. So this is the things that we fight for. We fight for decency, we fight for getting jobs, and the only way to improve your economic prosperity, to have healthier lifestyles, is actually working.
Great. Well, look, thanks very much, Warren. He's a good signing. He's a good signing.
Mr Mundine, in 2009 you said Bill Shorten would be the next Prime Minister. Last week you were linked to the Liberal Democrats. How can people take you seriously as a blue ribbon Liberal candidate?
If anyone follows my career, I've always been an honest speaker. I've always said what I believed in, and I've always said that the things that I believed in. For me, the Liberal Party is the home for me, because it is about creating jobs. It is about how do you have that marketplace, that environment where business can operate, small business especially, because we know small business employs more people than anyone else. How do we can do that and how we can drive forward. Now, I've got my son here with me today. He runs a small electrical service business. He employs 10 people and he's got 4 apprentices working for us. These are the type of people that we want to support and we want to drive on forward. Now, I want to go back to 2009. When I was in 2009, my job here today, and I'm looking at the policies that Bill Shorten is putting out there, is against the working class man. I got a son, I got a daughter, I got a son-in-law who are earning under $80,000 a year. They use negative gearing as their nest egg when they retire. That is under threat now. So we're going to get working class people under $80,000 a year, who are going to have the threat to their nest egg when they retire. You look at franking. Paul Keating was right about that. He got up and said that we need to encourage the working class people, the workers, to invest and get into shares and get into those things. That will help them build their nest egg and help them into their retirement age. That is now into threat. And that's exactly why I'm saying today that we've got to stop Bill Shorten, we've got to stop his team from actually getting out there and destroying our economy and destroying the opportunities for working class people.
But why join so late?
You've joined so late.
So let's go to the next one. Yep.
One of the things that you have said you believed in is that the date of Australia Day should be changed. Does that not put you at firm odds with the Prime Minister, and how frustrating do you find his strong view?
I don't find it frustrating at all, because as I said just recently in a newspaper article, what I'm saying, yes, I'd like to see the date changed. I've also said that the date of the 26th is always going to be important for Australia. Why? Because that was when Arthur Phillip sailed into Sydney Harbour, set up the colony of New South Wales, and there's a lot of Australians who are descended from those people, be they convicts or be they Marines or whatever, and that's a very special, important day for them. So that's always going to be celebrated. My argument is I've got 100 different things in front of that before I even get to that case. I want to deal with those 5 suicides of those young girls that happened in the last few weeks.
Yep.
At an age, and I was there
Yep.
At an age, and I was their age, I wanted to kick a football around the backyard. I saw the world my oyster and wanted to get out there and get a job, get educated and have a great life. These kids are choosing death before life. We've got to deal with those issues before we start talking about changing Australia Day. We've got to deal with jobs in those rural and remote communities where people are actually trapped in welfare traps. We've got to deal with the incarceration rates of Aboriginal people in juvenile detention and jail. These are my priorities. That's what I'll be working on.
Can you guarantee that there's a number of local Gilmore Liberal Party members walking away from the branch? They've been saying stuff like they're not going to obviously be on the campaign trail and to support your campaign. How can you confidently win the votes of local Gilmore voters without the support of many local Gilmore Liberals?
Well, as of today, I've started started talking to them. The federal Electoral Council President is here, where we're going to work with all those Liberal Party people. We're going to work with those people who are thinking about leaving or even who have left. And we're going to bring them back into the fold. Because if we don't do that, we've got the state elections coming up soon. We've got a couple of seats here that we have to win for the New South Wales government to get them returned. We've got the federal election following on soon after that we need to have people out on the ground. Otherwise, we're going to have my 2009 prediction of Bill Shorten being the Prime Minister of Australia, which will be the dreadful thing. So me, it's about getting out there, talking with those people. My mother always said to me, if you've got an issue or you've got a problem, always sit down with a cup of tea and have a conversation with people, and that's what I'll be doing. I'll be having a lot of cup of teas over the next few days, the next few weeks, and to get the team together that we need that will win this seat.
Can you guarantee that there's no more?
Explain to us what was wrong with Grant Schultz.
Well, let's address that. Ansett Marlis has been and will continue to be a great Liberal Member of Parliament until the next election. As you know, I stood over there with Anne last year, put my arm around her, and she got my 100% support. Every single day she has served in this Parliament, and she will have it. And indeed, if she had chose to want to continue, then she would have had that support going forward. But there were those who sought to undermine Anne and to make her life very difficult. And as a result, regrettably, she decided late last year that she didn't want to contest that seat. What we had sought to do was, the division had actually asked Grant Schultz to step aside, allow new nominations to be called, and that we could have that sort of a pre-selection. He chose not to do that. Now, I'm not going to reward behaviour that sought to undermine a sitting member of Parliament. I'm not going to reward that in the Liberal Party. I've been around the Liberal Party a long time. And his decision to do what he has done yesterday, I think, just says that the New South Wales State Executive got it dead right. You know, you don't get to bully your way into a seat in the Liberal Party. That's not how it works. Anne, you know, worked very hard in this electorate. She did a great job, and I'm very proud of what her achievements are as a Liberal Member of Parliament. And so now the election's getting close, and we had to get on with things. And so having had the discussions with Warren and having discussed the matter with the State Executive and others, then this was where we needed to go, and I want to thank the New South Wales State Executive for showing the decisiveness and the leadership that was necessary to deal with the things that have been going on here in the past. Those things are done, and I think Warren is exactly the right person who everyone can now get behind and ensure that we don't face a Labor future in Gilmore or as a country, because that is what puts our economy at risk. That is what puts services like hospitals and schools at risk, because we are facing a tougher economy in the world today. Now, you don't get a stronger economy by putting $200 billion of higher taxes on it. I mean, the Shadow Treasurer has come out today and thinks so bleak that it's the right time to put higher taxes on the Australian economy. I mean, what sort of economic madness is that? That's not our plan. That's Labor's plan. And we need to stop that plan from becoming a reality. And so that's what Liberals will rally around here on the South Coast, and that's what they will focus on. And I have every confidence with Adam O'Straney, the FEC President, who's here today, supporting Warren. That's what I believe will occur as the weeks unfold.
So, what do you think local Gilmore voters will see, I guess, eye to eye on those bullying that you speak of? Will you be able to communicate that message?
Well, look, I'm not going to go into that. All I know is Anne Marlis was a great Liberal Member of Parliament, and she regrettably made a decision that she didn't want to run again. And she can stand on a great record of service here in this local community. And she can, I think, be confident that in the decision that the State Executive has made in Warren, she'll have someone there who can take forward that Liberal cause, I think, very, very positively, very professionally and very effectively.
Are you saying that Grant Schultz was involved in the bullying at all?
No, I'm just simply saying that we had asked when Anne had decided that she wasn't running again. I mean, he was challenging a sitting member of Parliament.
Is that
I'm sure there might, I think there might,
Anne?
well, she can, but I mean, when Anne decided not to run, and I think it would have been the better opportunity for other candidates who would have liked to have come forward, and I'm sure Warren would have been happy to put himself into that sort of a contest, but Grant didn't want to do that. Grant wanted to just take the option of being the only candidate in the field, and I'm not going to reward that sort of behaviour.
But why would you parachute someone in from out of the area?
I think what we're doing here is ensuring that in Gilmore we have a candidate that everyone can get around. Everyone can get around. I think it's a circuit breaker from those events of last year, and it's an opportunity for Liberals here and Liberal supporters to get behind a first-class candidate. A first-class person, a first-class Australian, someone who has a lifetime, a track record of delivery, who understands the issues in regional Australia.
But he doesn't live here.
Warren didn't want to come along and say, oh, look, Prime Minister, can you put me in one of those safe seats in Sydney or something like that? Warren wants to be in the contest, and this is one of the seats that are on the absolute knife edge. And he wants to be very much in that contest. And as I said, and as he's explained, Warren's contacts and Warren's heritage here go back further than any of us.
Are you disappointed that the National Party are going to...
No, I take the question on the Nationals. No, Michael McCormick and I have discussed that. I mean, when there's an open, this is the way the coalition agreement works.
So it's okay for the coalition agreement, but it's not okay for the New South Wales Party to follow its own rules when it comes to Grant Schultz?
No, well, I don't understand what you're talking about. What I'm saying is the coalition agreement is when a seat is open, where a sitting member is not running again, then it is open for both parties in the coalition to actually contest that seat. I welcome the fact that the National Party are going to run, and I know Michael welcomes the fact that the Liberal Party is going to run, and Warren's our candidate, and they'll announce their candidate in due course, and both of those candidates will be making it very clear that Bill Shorten is the wrong answer for Australia, that Bill Shorten and the Labor Party are the wrong answer for Gilmore, and they'd both be right in making that point, and I believe it'll be a very friendly and cooperative campaign between the Liberal Party and the National Party candidates, because that's what you'd expect for a coalition that is getting on so well.
So, Prime Minister, can you just spell out what it is that Grant Shultz has done wrong?
Well, what I said is he challenged a sitting member. A sitting member was undermined who was doing a great job, and he was not prepared to allow the party to have an open selection process with new nominations called. He refused to allow that to happen. Under our Constitution, there was no other way to proceed to another open pre-selection unless Mr Schultz withdrew. Now, he would have been happy to... We would have been pleased...
forcing him to withdraw.
So he could contest an open pre-selection with other candidates who would have been able to come forward who weren't able to come forward and contest that pre-selection because they didn't want to undermine and challenge a sitting Liberal Party member.
Are you going to bend the rules in other electorates?
We'll be making the right decisions to ensure that we put the best foot forward in winning the next federal election, ensuring that we can continue our policies that have delivered more than 1 million jobs, that has got Australians to the point where, for the working age population, we have the lowest level of welfare dependency in the country's history, to ensure that the gender pay gap between men and women in this country has fallen to the lowest level we've seen on record. We have had record jobs growth for young people, better than any other year we have ever seen in this country. We're creating those jobs. We're allowing small and family businesses to get ahead. We're investing in the infrastructure that Australians need. We're seeing both our traditional industries being supported, as well as our new industries and medical and defence industries being able to move forward. And we're bringing the budget back into balance for the first time in 12 years. On the 2nd of April of this year, Josh Frydenberg will hand down the first budget surplus. Now, when you can do that, you can invest in lung cancer medicines. You can invest in medicines for multiple sclerosis. You can invest in research for breast cancer. You can invest in the things that are needed to help ordinary Australians every day deal with the challenges they face in their life. So I make no apologies for recruiting a great candidate. I make no apologies for ensuring that they are in this election, and that they are going toe-to-toe every day with the Labor Party to ensure that Bill Shorten cannot wreck our economy and rob retirement savings of millions of Australians.
And just on that question, I was out this morning, drove down this morning, went out and looked at a number of houses around this area. And then looked and decided on a house, and so in the next 24 hours, 48 hours, we'll get across the line on that.
Can you guarantee that there's no concerns about your eligibility to run for Parliament under Section 44, given all your business interests?
I have no concerns whatsoever. As I've been to QC, I've been to lawyers. We've gone through that whole process. And prior to the election, that will be announced about what I've done with all my businesses.
Mr. Mundine, someone local question.
Jeff Kennett, your response, he's also called...
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Jeff Kennett, he's also called for the date of Australia Day to be changed, saying keeping January 26 will forever put a white line between us and our First Peoples. Do you have a response?
Well, I don't agree. I agree with Warren that there are, particularly for Indigenous Australians, a lot more big issues, and those deaths of those young girls over the break are devastating. And I must say I haven't had too many questions on that over the break, and I did have one from Ben Fordham the other day, and I appreciated him asking me a question about that, because it gave me the opportunity to talk about some of the dreadful circumstances that young girls are living in communities and remote areas around the country. That's what matters. But, you know, today I saw Bill Shorten have a crack at me yesterday because I was talking about honouring Australia's history. I mean, Bill Shorten can sneer at our history if he wants. He can sneer at me if he wants. He can disrespect having an understanding of what our history means, and for all Australians to have the opportunity to get around it, learn from it. You know, for years, decades, we've had political correctness in this country, which I fear is raising kids in our country today to despise our history, to despise how we've grown as a nation. And I'm disappointed that Bill Shorten would want to feed into that when he sneered at my plan to ensure that the messages of reconciliation from Cook's Voyage could actually be taking around the entire country. I think that's disappointing, but that's why you can't trust this guy on this stuff. I mean, you know, he can't get his I won't say that. I'll be kind. I just would hope that we could agree that it's important that we allow young Australians to grow up in this country and not despise their country.
Like a
Prime
question
Minister,
for you, Mr. Mundine,
is
just quickly.
going to remain behind bars in Indonesia. Has the Australian government been working hard to make that happen, and do you welcome that news?
Well, let me say first that obviously matters in relation to the Indonesian justice system are entirely matters for the Indonesian government and their justice system under their constitution. They are sovereign in these respects in all ways, and I recognise that. I also can reassure Australians that our government and myself specifically have obviously been consistent in conveying our views about how we feel about this very significant matter and the very real sensitivities, both for those who were horrifically injured on that night and the 88 Australians who were killed that night, murdered that night, and ensuring respect for those families in the way that we've engaged on this issue. Now, I don't really want to say any more than that. I respect absolutely the Indonesian government's sovereignty over these matters, and I appreciate in the nature of our relationship the way we've been able to constructively engage with respect.
Mr. Mundine, big local issue here is the...
Yes, I believe Warren Mundine will win. I believe we will win. And I believe we will win because, you know, over the break, Shoalhaven Heads Hotel, which is not far from here, I went there one afternoon and one evening, and I met a lot of quiet Australians who don't spend their time trolling people or Twitter or carrying on. They're too busy. They're running businesses. They're getting their kids to school. They're raising their families. They're working hard. They're paying taxes. They're looking after their community. They're Rural Fire Service members. They're Surf Club members. They're too busy making Australia the wonderful country it is to be involved in all the shouting that goes on around politics these days. And I know what they want. They want a stronger economy so they can have the services that they rely on to be guaranteed. They want us to keep Australians safe, and they want us to keep Australians together. And I saw that on display. Families from right across New South Wales, people there just holidaying, whether it's a caravan park or other places, having a great time off with their family. That's what they want. That's what we're providing. That's what Warren and I stand for. We stand for those jobs. We stand for the roads that they need here on the South Coast. And we will stand up for them. They might not be out there shouting like everyone else, but I can assure all those quiet Australians out there that I hear them. I hear them absolutely, and I know Warren does too. And in us, you can have that confidence that will back you in every single time. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Well done, Warren.
Thank you.
Great to have
Morrison
on the team.
speaking in Nowra on the New South Wales South Coast, which is in the seat of Gilmore. That's, of course, where former Labor Party President Warren Mundine, with the Prime Minister there, has been picked to be the Liberal Party candidate, replacing the already pre-selected Liberal candidate Grant Shultz. The PM paid tribute to Anne Sudmalis, the serving MP who's stepping down at the next election. And Warren Mundine spoke about his candidacy, saying generations of his family came from the area and he feels like it is home.